Hey parents and coaches, are your kids using the right glove? The most important skill for youth athletes to learn is how to play proper catch. The problem is, most youth gloves are made with bad leather and are too big for small hands. They actually make it harder to play catch. That's why former Major League Baseball shortstop Kevin Smith created Cali gloves. Cali gloves are crafted from 100% Japanese kip leather and are the perfect size for kids. All Cali gloves come with palm slits, finger loops, and elastic wrist lacing that encourage proper hand placement, the right closing patterns, and give kids more confidence to go make plays. Cali gloves even allow parents to break in the glove without stretching out the fit. It's the glove Kevin wishes he had growing up, and the glove all his teammates want for their kids. Visit caligloves.com to learn more and help your kids play better catch. That's Cali Gloves, K-A-L-I gloves.com.
Welcome to this week's edition of the Dugout Dish Podcast. I'm Andy Kirikides, joined by my wonderful co-host who's rocking the Compass Cycle and Flow sweatshirt today, Keith Glasser. How we doing?
Great, how are you? This is a new sweatshirt.
It's sharp.
It is sharp. It's very comfortable. This is this will be the fourth week in a row from an episode standpoint that I'm wearing this outfit. So don't judge me.
Is that a 50-50 cotton polyester blend?
It is not. Oh no, this is we're doing pretty well here in the Compass Cycle world. This is a Lululemon sweatshirt. Yes.
All right.
So they splurged. We also have a blue one. I say we because my wife also has one as well. We have a blue one as well. You'll probably see me rocking it here in the near future. But, plugged them before. I'll plug them again if you're in the Rochester area, Compass Cycle and Flow. They have cycle classes my wife teaches. She's actually teaching, this doesn't matter because she'll have already taught when this goes out. But Thursdays at 6 a.m. and Fridays at 9 a.m. my wife teaches if you want to get on that bike. They also have some yoga. Coach Larson, a former guest of this podcast, is usually a very frequent flyer of the yoga studio there. My sister-in-law teaches there. They have a couple more. There's a plethora of instructors. They also have a spot over in Greece on the west side of Rochester as well. So they have a downtown studio, a west side studio. So, plenty of offerings if you're looking to get your cycle on out here in Rochester, New York. So, or if you're visiting, if you guys come and visit, swing by. Tell them Keith sent you.
This ad was not paid for.
That's a pretty good ad for an off the cuff.
Absolutely.
An off the cuff spot there. But yes, no, that was not paid. That was that's completely family. Being proud of my sister-in-laws and my wife for doing what they've been able to do there.
All right. Well, a little Q&A action today, Coach Glass. So I'm going to fire off some questions. We're going to try to answer them. First one. What is the typical recruiting timeline for a 2027 graduate?
Whew, yikes. Jumping right into it. I would say under the current landscape of college baseball recruiting, the vast majority of 2027 graduates are going to be recruited between May and November of next year in 2026. That's not to say that guys are committing right now because you're seeing it because they're able to be talked to and extended offers to. And coaches are out there, making decisions on guys that they really like that are on the super top end of their board that they're trying to get. And guys are committing. But for the vast majority of college baseball and, Division I, Division II, Division III, that timeline for the majority of people, and I'm talking like 97 to 98% of people, is going to be like May to November, December of 2026. The rise of the transfer portal and coaches not really knowing what the roster is going to look like. has changed this. The not being able to talk to people until August 1st going into your junior year of high school from a coach being able to talk to a potential student athlete has slowed this down. In that, like, there's no official visits, there's no offers, none of that stuff happens beforehand. So, it's really slowing down. At Division III level, especially right now, like they're still working on the 26th class. Like, there's a number of Division III schools out there that are still looking for 2026 grads. So they haven't even turned the page to 2027s yet. I would say that for the overwhelming majority, it's going to be, kind of post, the end of your high school season, late May, June into the through the summer and into the fall. And that time frame fits, right? Like that's when college coaches are going to be coming off of their seasons where they're going to be able to get out and see a little bit more high school than, just what's in their immediate area. And then obviously the summer and the fall where they can kind of hit the road and go do what they want to do. But, they're in a quiet period right now from a Division I standpoint, which, kind of everyone follows suit until March 1. So there's not a whole lot of recruiting going on right now. So I would say that would be the time frame in which I would tell most 2027s, unless you're going to go play in the SEC or the ACC, that, the majority of those guys are going to be committed, the majority of college baseball outside of them are going to be committing in, will be recruited, I should say, like late May, June through November, December.
Yeah, I think that's important for people to hear, because we get people that are like, well, I haven't talked to any coaches yet. So that's fine. The vast majority of guys aren't recruitable yet at the Division I level, and that's fine. You got a whole off season to go through. So the reality is, and you nailed it, that the vast majority of the recruiting is going to happen April, May, June, July, August of next summer, and it's not time to panic in terms of timelines by any stretch of the imagination. And the guys that you're seeing commit now, they're kind of cream of the crop. But the ACC and the SEC and the Big 12 and the Big 10 and the upper level conferences in Division I baseball, like they're going to be recruiting 27s well into next summer too. They're just hopping on some of the premium guys right now. So, yeah, it's very, very normal if you're listening to this, that if you're a 2027 grad and you haven't been on the phone with anybody or you haven't gotten a ton of interest, that's totally normal. And this race is not finished, in October of 2025. You got plenty of time to get better. You got plenty of time to put together a recruiting plan. I think it's important to understand that. Speaking of recruiting plans, what are some of the key things to consider when you're building out your target list of schools?
Sure. Obviously, what they have to offer academically should be one of the first and foremost things that you're looking for. You want to make sure that the school you're going to has what it is that you want to study at school. You really don't want to make any compromises on the front end before you even start your process of like, well, I'd go to this school if they had this, even though I don't really want to do it. So you want to cast a wide net. You want to make sure, they have A, what you want to do academically, B, you're competitive in the admissions process at that school. We've talked about this, frequently on this podcast, but I think that, there's a little misnomer out there that, no matter how good you are, schools can get you in academically, and that's just not true at all levels. You're going to have to be able to be competitive from an admissions standpoint. So you want to make sure that the schools you're targeting, you actually have a fighting chance to be able to get into academically. And what I mean by that is, like, if you want to play in the NESCAC, you have to have NESCAC grades. You have to be upper 90s, 3.7, 3.8 and above, and then, in that 1400 and above two-part or a 33 and above ACT for the middle 50th percentile. So those are the, you want to check those two boxes academically. Then you're going to want to find a fit from a baseball standpoint. You want to be able to find a school where, you can fit in from an athletic standpoint. What I mean by that is if you can't play at the University of Virginia, then you need to either be self-aware enough or have someone that you trust tell you like, hey, that's not going to be a fit for you academically. So you should probably, or athletically, you should take them off your list. You want to target schools in which you're going to be able to legitimately have a chance to be able to make that roster. From there, you're going to want to pare down, obviously, from the type of campus or the size of campus you're looking for. Some people want to go to school in the city. Some people want more rural. Some people want suburban. Some people want to go to a giant school where there's 30,000 people. Other people want to go to a school that's 1,200 people. You want to get that feel and that idea from a campus setting, what that looks like, because stolen from a frequent member of this podcast, Jonathan Grasset, who, said it eloquently. If you're not happy standing on the center of campus, you're not going to be happy standing at shortstop either. So you want to make sure that you're at a place where you're going to be comfortable outside of the baseball field as well. From there, find coaches and coaching staffs that want you in their program, that they want you to be a part of what it is that they're building, what it is that they're doing. You'll obviously have a really good idea if they're recruiting you, how badly they want you. But there's something to be said about going to a program where they really do value you as a student athlete, and find a coaching staff that you're comfortable with. You're going to be spending an inordinate amount of time with coaches and players, but especially with your coaches during the course of your career. You want to make sure that you are comfortable enough being able to be coached by them, probably at some point in your career be coached tough by them, and somebody that you can actually communicate with on what's going on and like, hey, why am I not playing, or what is it that I need to do to get better, and has a true open door policy where you can go in and talk those things out and have that conversation. You might not like what you hear, but that trust and that ability to be able to have those conversations will pay dividends moving forward, but also allows you to grow as a player and as a person. So I to kind of sum it up, I guess in a brief 5-point thing, I think I said 5 things. You want to find a place that has what you have from an academic what you want from an academic standpoint that you can get into, or at least are competitive enough in the admissions process. The type of campus setting that you're looking for, the type of program that you want to play in, that you fit in, that you can play in, and then a coaching staff that is willing, that wants you, and also will be able to develop you as not only a baseball player, but as a human being throughout the course of your career there too.
Yeah, I think, I mean, you nailed a bunch of the things that I'm probably going to double down on here, but I think from a baseball perspective, it starts with getting an understanding of where you fit in the college baseball landscape, both currently and where you could potentially fit. All right, so there's some projection involved in this, but you're sitting here on October 15th. You need somebody who can look you in the eyes and go, hey, I think that this is the type of school that you fit in right now from a baseball perspective. And this is the type of school that I think you can get to if you work really hard for the next 6 months. And you need to see kind of where the chips fall. So you got to have some schools that are quote unquote target schools, and then some schools that you're reaching for a little bit. It could be a mix of Division 1, 2, and 3. It could be a mix of Division 1. Whatever it is, but it starts from a pure baseball perspective. It starts with having a good understanding of what your skill set, what your ability allows you to do from a college baseball perspective. And then you hit on the non-baseball stuff that I think you need to consider. How far are you going to be from home, right? If you're from, Massachusetts and you want to stay in New England, there's your constraint. You got to be looking at schools that fit from a baseball perspective in that particular region. So is there a geographic constraint that you're going to put on yourself? The academic portion has to play a factor, specifically if you're a high academic kid. Do they have the right degree? Are you admissible? Doing some research on those schools. And the campus setting, I think, is huge. When you get into the process and you start to get recruited, that what you were talking about with the coaches, that's a huge piece of the puzzle. But in terms of crafting that initial list, that initial target list, from a pure baseball perspective, it starts 100% with a current evaluation of where you're at, where you fit now, and where you could potentially fit depending on how you continue to progress. And then you got to factor in the non-baseball pieces of the puzzle that are going to help you have a more refined list so you don't end up with 150 schools, because that doesn't really do much for you in the long run. So, all right, next question. Are tournaments with your travel team sufficient for exposure? So, yes and no on this one. Like a lot of things that we talk about, there's different use cases. What I would say in general is that for most kids, you need to supplement your travel schedule with other events and camps that are going to maximize your chances to get in front of the schools that you want to get in front of. And the reason I say this is you can't always count on the coaches that you want to be seen by to be at the places you're going to play, right? If you're a kid from Texas and you want to play in the Ivy League, you need to make sure that you get in front of the Ivy League coaches or you have some contact with those coaches in some way, shape, or form. So maybe it's you have to go to one of their camps. Maybe you need to go to an academic focus showcase. So taking into account what your tournament schedule is and is that going to get you in front of the right coaches? That's huge. And then you need to look at how you can supplement it. So that would be kind of my quick answer too. It can be for some guys. Some guys are good enough. They're going to be in the right spots because their travel team does a really good job of being in the right places to be seen by guys. But for most kids, you need to have a contingency plan and you need to ensure that you have a schedule put together that gets you in front of the schools that you're one, interested in or interested in you, or two, that you have a chance to play at and you need to get in front of them so that you can get recruited.
Yeah, I don't really think I have much to add there. I think that generally speaking, the tournament setup is not going to be all inclusive for the programs it is that you might want to be recruited by, right? And I think it's going to be specific to each and every kid. If you're a high academic kid and you're going to Hoover, that might not be the best move for you to be seen by those schools, as an example, because they're not going to be there, right? So, I think kind of understanding where they're at and what it is where they're going to be recruiting, and it's as simple as just sending an email and saying like, hey, this is where I'm going to be at, and they might say like, hey, we're not going to be there, but we're going to be at these places. That gives you the ability to be able to supplement with what you're doing from a recruitment plan standpoint to be able to be seen. So in some regards, yes, that playing in tournaments and things of that nature are going to be able to suffice for some people. Other people are going to have to supplement depending on what it is your ultimate goals are from a baseball and an academic standpoint. And that could be on-campus camps, could be the private showcases, could be the kind of private camps that are out there too. There's multiple different avenues to get there. But it's just kind of figuring out where those coaches are going to be that you want to be recruited by or are recruiting you, that can see you play so they can make decisions on you.
That dovetails nicely into the next question, which is, what are some of the best ways to get on a coach's radar?
Have a high motor, look good in a uniform.
I think this question is more driving at like,
yeah, how do you get on the radar so they'll see you?
Yeah. But those two are very valid. Like play hard, look good in the uniform is a good place to start.
Yes. I think I think the easiest way is to make sure that the videos that you're sending to coaches, your communication with coaches, and the stuff you're putting on social media are showing where your current skill set is at, so that they can kind of evaluate that brief snapshot of what you're showing them, so that they can determine whether or not you at least meet the floor of their program for them to continue down that road. is probably the easiest way. I don't think being able to, I don't think calling people or, that's not going to move the needle. I think it's way more along the lines of making sure, and this is why I think it's important in 2025, like create your own YouTube channel, be able to send updated video, every month to kind of show where you're at and what you're doing. It at the very least is going to show them where you are currently at. And again, like if you're at the floor for what it is that they want in their program, they're way more likely to reach out to you. Where if you're below the floor, they're not as likely to reach out. And then I think, being able to, throw something in your emails about what you want to do academically and those types of things, right? Like when I was at RPI, if someone emailed me and was like, I really want chemical engineering, like, well, hey, we're pretty good at chemical engineering. Like, let's see what this kid is all about, and kind of go from there. So, and I think sometimes you just have to parse through the responses you're getting and kind of read through the lines as to whether or not they're very interested or if they're just kind of responding to respond, which is a true thing that happens. So the best way I think to get on the radar is to have updated video. It doesn't have to always be gameplay, but updated video of where you're currently at from a skill set standpoint, what you've been doing. I think if you are telling coaches that and you have to be doing it, you can't just say you're doing it, but like, hey, I'm in the weight room 4 times a week and, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. Like, it's going to move the needle because it's like, okay, like this kid's really getting after it, right? Like he lifts 4 times a week. He also plays football and, maybe he's a wrestler or he plays hoops. Like there's some athleticism there. Like, I like his swing. I like how he moves. It's like at the very least, this is someone we have to follow up with if we can over the course of the summer, or if we can't, try to get him to camp so that we can see him play in front of us and see what he's like. It's probably the easiest way to get on our radar.
Yeah, I think still the most tried and true method is email. With all of the stuff that you just talked about, relevant video, some sort of a cadence to reach out. And this kind of goes back to the target school. Like you need to be reaching out to the right types of schools, right? They got to be a place that you legitimately could potentially play at. I think that that's important, but I think email is still tried and true. I think leveraging social media, making sure that you have some posts that are going up on social media, that you're following coaches of schools that you have interest is a great way to showcase it. The other way, right? Shameless plug, I guess, in a sense, is like if you have some people in your corner that are trusted, that can make some calls for you, like that helps. That can shoot an email and say, hey, so and so, like, listen, I saw this kid the other day. I think he's got a chance to be pretty good, like worth following up with, whatever it might be. I do think that having somebody in your corner, whether it's your high school coach or your travel coach or somebody to help you get through this process, I think that does increase your visibility and kind of increase your chances. But still tried and true. Like you got to put in a little bit of the legwork when it comes to getting emails out, following coaches on Twitter, updating your video. I think your YouTube video advice is. I don't think enough people take advantage of that. It's video that's there in perpetuity. It's easy links to send. It's a place where coaches can go and look at your stuff regularly without being prompted. I think it makes a ton of sense for kids to kind of set that up, and it's just I guess it's an extension of. I guess YouTube is technically social media, but kind of an extension of Twitter. Being able to embed your YouTube link in a tweet, being able to put it in your profile and make your video and your skill set as accessible to coaches as you possibly can. All right. Next question. How do coaches weigh or value high school and travel ball stats? And we've definitely covered this, but this is always an interesting question for me because for me they matter until they don't, which is might not be the best way to put it, but let me try to walk it back. There's not many high school guys who hit 250 who end up going on to be good high school to be good college players. Not all guys who hit 400 are good college players or even college players, right, at the high school level. But coaches are going to look, right? And we've talked to a bunch of guys about this where I need to see that you're having some success at the level that you're currently at. That's a big cue. They're like, okay, he's doing well at his level right now, and then the evaluation is going to start on the tool set, right? Because you can be a really good high school pitcher and go 7-0 and punch out 8 or 9 guys a game and be 82 to 84, and that's not going to be a Division I arm. But it doesn't mean that you're not a college guy. But it kind of starts with those numbers. Like if you can't go be successful at the level you're at, it's generally not a good indicator that you're going to be successful when the competition gets harder. So being good in high school matters, having good high school stats matter, but you have to understand that that doesn't necessarily qualify you to be recruited at certain levels of college baseball. There's guys who hit 400 in high school who are going to go play low-level Division III baseball because they're a subpar runner, or they're a first baseman only, or they may not have a tool set that translates to higher levels, but it doesn't mean that that kid can't play college baseball. Just like there's kids who are going to hit 350 that are going to get Division I scholarships because they're 6'3" and they run 6'5s, and so it's, for me, it matters. You need to be able to showcase that you're good at the level you're at right now, and coaches do. It is a part of the equation. It's something that they do look at, and I think that it's relevant for people to understand that.
Yeah, I think that they matter, but they also matter to a certain extent. And to your point, like if you're hitting 400 in Class D baseball in New York, not to characterize it, but you're talking about like 80 people high schools. So the math kind of bears itself out a little bit there. But and I think it's not just hitting too, right? Like they're going to care about your ERA and they're going to care about your fielding percentage and things of that nature, because those are all components of what you're doing. Like you could hit 450, but if you're going to field 710, that's going to kind of indicate to me that you probably can't field yourself out of a wet paper bag, and I don't know if you're going to be able to defend at the college level. And it's all relevant because it's they do matter, but there's going to be other things that matter as well. And I mean, we go down a rabbit hole with this one because you're right. Like you could hit 350, but if you're a 6'6" runner and you can do a lot of things, coaches can look at that and be like, we could teach that guy, or excuse me, let me walk it back. You might be a 300 hitter in high school, but you're a 6'6" runner and you're hitting in the 3-hole in high school. Like as college guys, you might look at it and be like, I could teach that dude to hit 325, 330 in college just by bunting and utilizing his speed and not hitting him in the 3-hole and giving him an opportunity to see more fastballs. And those are things that are thought about in the recruiting process, right? Like, it's generally going to be thought about where we care, but to a certain extent. But like, if you're hitting $150, there's not a lot of high school guys that are hitting $150 and then turn around and all of a sudden are really good college hitters. So it cues you into where guys are at and how good they might be in their current setting. And then you kind of go from there. But I don't know how many people are you're splitting hairs if you're going to tell me you're hitting 300 or 320, right? Like, okay, over the course of a shortened down, condensed 20-game season, like we're talking about 1 or 2 hits. But yes, they matter, but to a certain extent.
Another statistical-based question. We live in a world of metrics. It's increasingly a part of the evaluation process. And I'm going to preface this question with what we're going to say is that at least my response is going to be metrics matter as long as you can take them into the game, right? The exit velo, the velocity, 60 time, like they all need to show up in the game. But the question here is what metrics do coaches value most and why? And for me, there's kind of three core metrics that I think coaches look at to get an idea if you have a physical tool set, right? And this is besides the height and weight stuff, right? Because that matters too. There's a reason that guys at the highest level all seem to be large humans because that is a preferred trait. But when you're looking at metrics, and I'm not going to dive deep into the TrackMan stuff because it goes beyond kind of probably the scope of this question, but you've got the exit velocity, you've got the 60 time, and you've got pitching velocity. And the reason I think coaches value these metrics, right? And arm speed, if you're going to, look at positional guys, although I don't think that a lot of guys really care too much about how hard you throw across the infield with a crow hop. But the exit velocity matters because it gives me an idea of do you have the requisite strength and bat speed in order to hit, right? So if you have exit velocity of 88, it tells me that you probably don't have a ton of strength and bat speed in your swing. And it's going to be really tough for you to hit regardless of how pretty your swing looks. You're going to have to make swing decisions super early. You're probably going to struggle with velocity, which means you're probably going to struggle with spin, trickle down effect. But if you're in that 95, 96 range, like that seems to be where like a lot of the conversation starts. But then I need to see if you can actually hit, right? If you can hit a ball 95, 97, 98, 100 miles an hour, like you can do something physically that allows you to probably hit. But now I need to see you take that into the game. And that's kind of what I preface this with is, what are your swing decisions like? How do you handle velocity? Are the moving parts of your swing repeatable? How do you take at bats? Like I'm going to dive into the big piece of that, but that exit velocity does matter. Pitching velocity absolutely matters. It's not the end all be all part of the equation, but I think it's the barrier. It's a barrier to entry at a lot of different levels. It's going to be different at every level. It's going to be different for different programs. And there's way more that goes into the evaluation than just velocity, but it's usually where the conversation starts, right? If you're 85 to 87, you're probably going to have a really tough time getting people out in the ACC or the SEC or the Big 12 or, a lot of Division I levels for that matter. It doesn't mean that you can't, but you got to do some other stuff that's pretty special. And coaches dive into the TrackMan data and release points and entry angles and spin rates and movement profiles. And it gets pretty nuanced in terms of how that all works. But at its core, that pitching velocity is something that coaches they're definitely going to look at. It is important to them. And then the 60-yard dash, it might be a little bit surprising to people, is for me, it's a measure of athleticism. Guys who are good athletes tend to be able to run. So it's not the end all be all. It's less important for certain positions, but nobody ever turns down a guy who can run that does all the other stuff. So if you can go run a 6'7", like you're going to catch somebody's eye. Whether you're a really good baseball player or not, if you can really run, a coach is going to pay attention to you. So for me, that's a measure of athleticism. And if I was going to boil it down to like three metrics that coaches look at as a part of their evaluation, not the whole of it, because they still need to figure out, can you play? Can you compete? What's your character look like? How projectable are you? How do you move? Like it gets way more nuanced than those, but those are the three that I think stick out to me.
Sorry, I was fighting for the mute button there. I don't really think that you're not going to get more nuanced in the metrics department unless you're further down the recruiting process and you have the requisite technology to be able to do it on campus, things like that. I think those ones are relatively easy and a lot more available at tournaments and showcases nowadays. I don't think it actually changes anything that we've really seen from a recruiting standpoint over the the last 20 years. I think it validates some of the things that we've seen. But dudes who can move really well are generally going to be easier to kind of lock in on and go see to recruit. Guys who are on the barrel with bat speed and ball jumps off their bat, like, yeah, man, those are guys that we're all going to recruit. Same thing from a velo perspective. Now, obviously, there's nuance to all of it where, I've seen guys that are triple digit exit velos in the, showcase setting, and then you get them into the mat box and they swing on the same plane, and you can pretty much, as long as you don't throw it into their barrel, you're going to get them out. And same thing I've seen guys be max effort and they're 89-91 for one inning, and then after that they're 84-86. And guys, I've seen guys play up from a speed perspective where they're a 6'9", 7'0" runner, but they play the game a lot faster. And guys who are 6'6", 6'7" runners who that first step is slow and it takes them a while to get going and they're a little bit slower. So there's a lot of nuance to it, but to your point originally, and we've said this a million times, like, it's got to show up when the lights are on, right? Like, it doesn't matter if you're doing it in the bullpen at a showcase, hitting off a tee for your exit velo. Like, we don't play the game that way. You actually have a dude 60 feet, 6 inches away who's trying to get you out. It has to show up then. The speed has to show up in game, not only offensively, but defensively, right? Like, if you're an outfielder, you can go run, like, showcase that off, go get balls, chase them down. If you're an infielder, you can run, like, range out and go get balls. If you have the arm strength, show it off, stick that foot in the back, you go backhand in the showcase and you stick that back foot in the ground, unleash it across the diamond, like, there's going to be dudes that are circling your name because we know. But those types of things need to show up in game. And I think that, sometimes it's forgot about that those things still really do matter and matter a lot more than I think people really kind of give it credit for with the StatCast era in which we live. But they, like, at the end of the day, no matter what it is that you're going to do from a metrics perspective, you could have the best metrics in the world from a showcase standpoint. Like, they have to show up in game. You got to be on the barrel with velo. You got to be able to, carry your velo more than just one inning. And, you have to be able to showcase your speed all the time. So, like, those things, while yes, like, those are the easiest ones to kind of identify, again, when the lights are on and we're playing the game, you got to be able to do it. And then they, like, it validates what we saw in the showcase setting. And now we're a lot more interested. And now you become a lot more recruitable at multiple levels and at multiple schools.
Well said. Last question. 3 pieces of advice you would give players. We asked this to coaches at the end of our podcast, but I don't know if we've ever directly answered this question. 3 pieces of advice you'd give players who have aspirations of playing college baseball.
3?
What, you want to do 5, 10, 12?
No, I wasn't expecting a number. I was just going to go off
3.
the cuff. But
3, baby. Give me 3.
I wasted all my energy I wasted the good surprise on the Compass ad.
Wasted the good surprise on you?
I would say, number one, you want to be realistic in your process, like where you slot in from an athletic standpoint and where you fit in academically. I think one of the things where people can kind of get jammed up is either overestimating where they fit athletically and or overestimating where they fit academically. So you want to be realistic in where you're going to fit in from a baseball and an academic standpoint. You want to find a program and a coaching staff that believes in you, that wants you to be a part of their program. I think a lot of people make the mistake of chasing the shiny thing over here when this thing over here is probably going to be way better for them from a career standpoint, from an academic standpoint, from a development standpoint, from being able to walk out of there in 4 years with a degree and being a better human being than you were when you set foot on campus. So finding that coaching staff and that program that believes in you. And I think the third one would be finding a place and not from a program standpoint, but from a campus and a team standpoint where you feel as though you're going to fit in and you're going to be able to be yourself. I think sometimes that, it's hard when you're going through this recruiting process because you have to make decisions, with relatively limited information. But I think, when you go visit campus and you meet kids on the team, you get a sense of what it actually is from a culture perspective and what that team is like. And you want to go to a place where you feel as though you can walk into that place and be who you are the second you set foot on campus. And I think it's a little bit separate than from the coaching staff and from the belief in you. I think that you're likely to find a handful of staffs in the recruiting process where like they are going to believe in you and you do feel comfortable with them. But I think a separator is, the team that and the guys that you're going to be with. And I think back to, my recruiting process, but also, where we went to school, I should say, and you see what we're doing. Like we work together, we own a business together, we do this, we talk more than most people are probably even aware of throughout the course of the day. But there's still a number of guys that I played with at Marist College that I talk to regularly, like maybe not every day. But me, you, and Eric talk every day. And I talk to Kyle Meyer multiple times a week and Kenny Anderson. And, the list goes on of guys that I still keep in contact with and talk to quite a bit because there's still some of my very, very good friends that I was able to, do a lot of really cool things with over the course of 4 years. And if I hadn't chose that place, I don't know if I would feel that way. And I chose that place because when I went there, like I felt like I was going to be able to go in there and be who I am and, not necessarily, I don't want to say be judged, because there's some, what I was going to say, but I won't say it on the podcast. Like you walk in there as an 18-year-old, like there's some things about you that like people are going to look at you and be like, nah, what's going on here? But like I knew that I could walk into that place and be who I wanted to be and be who I was, I should say. And I was going to be able to make lifelong friends, and I was able to do that. So I think that, the Pat Feeneys and the Travis Musoffs and the Joe Sargents of the world and the Robbie Ryans and the Chris Trazes, like, being able to still stay in contact with a lot of people that you played with over the course of 20 years, like that stuff matters in the long run. And I think if I could give advice, like those would probably be my three biggest ones. Make sure you're going to go somewhere academically and athletically where you fit in and you're not, reaching too far. You find a coaching staff that really believes in you, but you also find, that other component of that team and that culture standpoint of being able to walk in there and be who you are and, more or less be able to make lifelong friends that you can go do a lot of cool stuff with over the course of your lifetime.
Yeah, I'll try not to double up too much. For me, 3 pieces of advice. One would be get in the weight room. Focus on your development. And I think one of the places that the lowest hanging fruit for most guys is adding strength and making yourself recruitable from a physical perspective. So I think anybody who has aspirations of playing college baseball, if you're not in the weight room, if you're not taking that part of your development serious, you need to. I think skill acquisition is way easier than getting strong. So that for me is a big one if you have aspirations to play in college baseball. The second one would be follow your own path and like put blinders on. There's a lot of distractions out there. There's a lot of opportunity to focus on what everybody else is doing, when other guys are committing, where guys are committing, playing the comp game. Don't worry about that stuff. Everybody's timeline is going to be different. Focus on what I just said is number one, which is the development, the strength piece. But number two, put your blinders on and focus on you and your path and what you need to do in order to become recruitable. And then the third one, which you hit on with a couple of yours, but I'll try to put it simply, like people matter. And you hit on the people that you experience when you're in college. And it's hard to put a price on how important that is and like what you get out of it in the long term if you can find yourself in the right place with the right people. I'll take it one step further from a pure recruiting perspective is surround yourself with the right people to help you develop. Maybe it's a strength coach, the right people to help you with your skill acquisition. Maybe it's a hitting coach, maybe it's a pitching coach. Um, Somebody who can give you guidance on this, who has experience in it. Like the people that you surround yourself with in this process should elevate you. They should be honest with you and they should elevate you and make this process easier and less stressful. And then you get to the people portion that you talked about, which is the coaches that you play for and the people that you play with. Those are when you get to college, I can't emphasize how important it is to make sure that you're at a place that's going to get the most out of you from a baseball perspective, but probably even more importantly from a personal perspective. So those would be my three. You hit on one of the other ones that I think needs to be a priority. So if I was going to add a fourth, is it's got to be a long-term decision, and the academic portion of it is absolutely paramount. And just making this a baseball decision, I think you're selling yourself short. It doesn't mean that you have to go to the Ivy Leagues. It doesn't mean that you need to go to the best academic school that you can possibly get into, but it needs to be a place that has a major that you can pursue, that you could see yourself pursuing post-college. It can't just be some throwaway degree if at all possible. So there's where I'm at. Weight room and development, focus on yourself, focus on your process. Don't let all the noise get in the way, worrying about what other people are doing. It's not a zero-sum game. And then don't underestimate how important the people that you surround yourself with during the process, and then the people that you choose to be around when you go to college to play baseball. They matter. They matter more than you'll ever be able to wrap your head around as a 16, 17-year-old. You won't really know it until you look back and you're our age and you can say, wow, I didn't think that was going to matter as much, but it does. It matters more than you can possibly imagine. So,
agreed.
Anything else you want to add, Coach?
Nope.
All right. Well, thank you for listening to our Q&A. Tune in next week. We'll have some more content for you, and we will talk to you then. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for listening this week. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and smash that like button for us. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, as well as Spotify. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at EMD Baseball. If you want to find out what me and Keith do to help families and players navigate the recruiting process, go ahead and check us out on emdbaseball.com. Take a few minutes to check out our new online academy. I promise you'll get some good information out of that. Thanks again for listening. Check in with you next week.